Welcome to Crosstalk Solutions. My name's Chris, and this is FreePBX 101 version 15, part 27, where we are going to be talking about queues. In our last video, we discussed ring groups. In this video, we're discussing queues. Both of these things are ways to distribute calls to multiple individuals within your organization. However, there are some pretty significant differences. Ring groups are much simpler than queues. There's a lot more that you can do with queues. And the general rule of thumb is if you have more agents available to answer calls than you have calls coming in, you want to use a ring group for that. But if you have more calls coming in than you have agents to handle those calls, you want to use a queue for that. And when you use queues, there's a lot of different options in terms of how you distribute calls to the agents, what your agents can do in the queues, as well as some buttons that go on the phone for managing logging agents in and out, as well as pausing agents in case they have to go on a break or hit the restroom or go to lunch or whatever. Okay, so we're going to cover all of that stuff in this video. But first, if you are enjoying this series, make sure you like and subscribe to Crosstalk Solutions so you don't miss more videos just like this one. If you're interested in buying me a beer, there's going to be a link down below to do that in the description. And of course, for all of your voice over IP needs, make sure you contact Crosstalk Solutions. You can buy phones through our store. You can contact us if you need support on FreePBX. And of course, we also have Crosstalk SIP trunking for all of your PSTN calls. All right. Let's dig into queues. So the first thing that we're going to do is take a look at our IVR design. And now we are getting closer to finishing building out this entire flowchart here, this entire design. Where we are right now are over here. So in our last video, we created this ring group here and we created our receptionist ring group up here. Now we want to create a sales queue as well as a customer service queue. The sales queue is going to dump into the sales voicemail box as a failover destination, and the customer service queue is going to go to the customer service voicemail box as a failover destination. But there are tons and tons and tons of different options before we get to that. So let's dig into it. From FreePBX, we want to go to Applications and then Queues, and we're going to say Add Queue. Now let's start with our sales voicemail box, or our sales queue, excuse me, and that is extension 5050. So for the queue number, we're going to say 5050, and we're going to call this sales queue. Now, just like other aspects of FreePBX, I am only going to cover the most important options or the most commonly used options for queues. Now look at all the tabs across the top. Look at all the options up and down this tab in general settings. There's just too much. I can't possibly cover every single setting. So if you're interested in learning about the settings like queue no answer or call confirm or whatever, you can just hover over the little question mark and read about that particular setting. For this queue, there are a couple of things that I want to set. So first of all, we have the caller ID name prefix. I'm going to say sales : and what that's going to do is it's going to prepend sales : to the front of the caller ID of the caller when the call ends up at an agent's desk, just so that they know this is a call that came in from the sales queue. Similarly, if I want to, I can change the alert info to have a different ringtone on particular phones, again, for this particular sales queue, so that my agents, if they hear a different ringtone, they know that that's a sales queue call. Scrolling down a bit, we have our ring strategy. Now the ring strategies for a queue, there's a ton of them, right? So if you hover over here, you can read about all of the various ring strategies. Most commonly, we see ring all or round robin with memory. So round robin with memory means the first call that comes in goes to the first agent, the second call that comes in goes to the second agent, and then the third agent, fourth agent, etc. It remembers the order of the agents and it distributes calls evenly to all of the agents in the list in order. So we're going to use that as our ring strategy, round robin with memory. And then we have this autofill setting. Now, autofill is very, very important for queues. So with autofill set to no, what's going to happen is a call is going to come into the queue and it's going to ring agent 1 for the ring timeout, which we're going to set in just a second here. So say the ring timeout is 20 seconds or 4 rings. It's going to ring agent 1 for those 4 rings. Now, if agent 1 picks up that call is connected, and the second call that comes in is now available to be passed out to other agents. However, say call 1 comes in, and they're sitting in the queue on hold waiting for an agent, and a second call now comes in, and they're sitting on hold waiting for an agent. Call 1 is ringing agent 1, and agent 1 doesn't pick up. Well, then call 1 starts to ring agent 2. Now let's say agent 2 doesn't pick up. Well, call 1 still now rings agent 3, and then finally agent 3 picks up. But that's a lot of time that has passed to get the first caller to an agent. It tried agent 1 didn't pick up, then it has to ring X amount of times at agent 2's desk, etc., etc. With autofill set to no, the second caller that came into that queue has to sit there and wait for the first caller to successfully be connected to an agent before the queuing system tries now to connect the second caller. So the difference there is when we set autofill to yes, if call 1 comes in and starts ringing an agent, and it's waiting for an agent to pick up that call, call 2 does not have to wait. Okay, it will automatically start ringing the next agent in the round robin memory list automatically. So even if the first call goes to the first agent and then has to go to a second agent or a third agent before it's actually answered, the first call it doesn't stop the second call from coming in and being handled by a different agent, right? So it allows you to more efficiently pass your calls to your agents, especially in larger call center environments. You don't want the second and subsequent callers to be waiting on that first call to be connected, or else you're just adding a lot of extra wait time. You've got agents that are sitting there idle waiting for calls to come through, and you've got callers on the phone that are waiting to be passed to agents. So why not make that as efficient as possible by making sure that autofill is turned on? Okay, then we have our skip busy agents. So do we want to skip agents that are already on a phone call? And there's a whole bunch of different settings here. So you can say yes for agents that are on a phone call, or you can say only skip agents that are already on queue calls. So for instance, if I call my manager or someone else in the organization, or I call home, or I call to order a pizza, right? Even though I'm on the phone, that's not a queue call. So we're saying that if you say queue calls only, skip agents that are on queue calls only, any call that's not a queue call, I'm still going to get queue calls to my extension, right, if I'm on the phone. But if you say yes to just skip busy agents, it'll skip me no matter what kind of other call I'm on. It's just like, oh, this person's on a call, they're busy, we don't care, we're going to try to pass it to another agent. So we're going to say queue calls only. So if someone's doing extension to extension, or they're calling to order a pizza, or they're calling their manager, we still want queue calls to get through to that agent's desk. Down here we have call recording, so we can choose whether or not to record queue calls. I'm just going to say yes, we'll record queue calls in this case. And then we have our failover destination, which if we look at our IVR design, the failover destination for the sales queue is the sales voicemail box extension 6001. And we're going to want to use the outgoing greeting on that sales voicemail box. We're not going to pass it to an announcement first and then go into that voicemail box with no outgoing greeting. So we're going to say failover destination is voicemail, sales voicemail, unavailable message. And now we can move on to some of these other tabs. So the second tab here is queue agents. The queue agents tab allows us to add our agents into this queue. So there are two different types of agents that you can put into a queue. You can have static agents or dynamic agents. Static agents means we are going to ring this person's extension no matter what. There is no ability for the agent to use a feature code to log in and out of the queue to accept queue calls. It just means that they are a permanent member of this queue, and queue calls will always be distributed to that agent's phone. So we're going to say 200, 0, or you can use the agent quick select on the right-hand side. Dynamic agents are agents that can use feature codes to log in and out of the queue. So actually, let me do it this way. I'm going to say for static agents, let me get rid of Michael Scott. I'm going to choose Dwight Schrute, Jim Halpert, Andy Bernard, Pam Beasley, And those are our static agents. Then we have dynamic agents. Let's now add Michael Scott as a dynamic agent. So what this means is, in this queue, these 4 extensions will always ring, but Michael has the ability to log in and out. So essentially, Michael might want to only log into the queue when the queue volume is high. So if there's a lot of sales calls coming in and everyone else is really busy, maybe Michael logs into the queue to start receiving those phone calls to help handle some of the overflow. Now this (0) that you see here is the priority. So another way that we could do this is make everyone a dynamic agent, but then make Michael Scott a higher level. Okay, so what that means is everyone can be logged into the queue, or everyone has to log into the queue, but calls will always be passed to agents with a lower priority, that's this second number, a lower priority first. So if we're doing round robin with memory, it's always going to do the 0 level priority agents as long as those agents are available, meaning they're not on do not disturb, they're not paused out of the queue, their phone is registered, etc. So as long as those agents are available, it will always use these 4 agents, and it's only going to go to the higher level priority agents if everyone else is busy or on pause or otherwise unavailable. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go ahead and let's pull 201 out as a static agent. These are extensions that I don't have currently hooked up, and we'll put those 2 there, and then we're going to use 202 with priority 0 and 200 with priority 1. Now let's go over to timing and agent options. Now there are 2 different ways that calls might end up at the failover destination that we set on the General Settings tab. One is timing. How long is someone waiting on hold? The second is capacity. How many callers are in the queue? So for instance, if we didn't want callers to stay on hold longer than 5 minutes, we would change the max wait time here to 5 minutes. And then we want to say strict or loose. Essentially, this just means if we hit that 5-minute mark while a call is actively ringing an agent, if we're on strict, it's going to stop ringing that agent and it's going to go to the failover destination. But if we're on loose, it's going to continue ringing that agent that it's ringing to see if the agent picks up the call, and if they do, that call is connected and out of the queue anyways. Then we have our agent timeout. So right now it's set to 15 seconds. This means 3 rings essentially. I'm going to bump that down for our purposes to 10 seconds. So we're going to ring each agent for 10 seconds to see if they want to take this call. And then we have a retry of 5 seconds. So the retry means I ring agent 1 for 10 seconds, they don't pick up the phone, so we're going to pause for 5 seconds, and then we're going to retry agent 2, or the next agent in the list. Wrap-up time is used for situations where you might want to give your call center agents some time after a phone call has been completed before they are able to receive a second queue call. In this case, if it's set to 0 seconds, as soon as they hang up, if there's another caller in the queue waiting, it's going to immediately ring through to their phone. But if they have to put some notes into a CRM or something like that, you might want to bump this up to 30 seconds or whatever. In our case, I'm just going to put it to 10 seconds, and that should be just fine. Now here we have auto pause. So auto pause is a really good idea to enable for especially high volume queues. So imagine a situation where I'm a call center agent and I went to lunch, and I forgot to manually pause myself out of the queue. Well, if auto pause is not turned on, calls are going to keep ringing my desk and timing out. So you got that 10 seconds to try me as an agent, and then 5-second retry time. So over and over and over for the entire hour that I'm at lunch, we're adding 15 seconds of wait time to the people that are calling into the queue because it keeps trying my desk. So what auto pause does is it says, yes, for this queue only, or for all queues that I'm a member of, if a call is sent to my desk and I don't answer it, automatically put me on pause, right? So that we're not wasting time for subsequent calls that are going to try me at my desk, and ring for that, 10 seconds plus 5-second timeout. Okay, now we can click on capacity options. So in this case, max callers when it's set to 0 means you can have an unlimited amount of callers in the queue. But let's say I wanted to say 10. So that means 10 people can be waiting on hold, and the 11th person that calls in is going to skip this queue and go straight to the failover destination, which is our sales general voicemail box. Then we have join when empty. If there are no agents available to answer calls, do we want to actually still put callers in the queue? Like for instance, if everyone's on pause, like everyone went to lunch at the same time, or do we want to send people to the failover destination? And again, you can sort of read the question mark here to see what all of the various options are. And same thing, leave when empty. Determines if callers should be exited prematurely from the queue in a situation where no one is currently available. So I usually say join when empty, no, leave when empty, yes. This means that callers can't get into the queue unless there are available agents to take those calls. And leave when empty means if all of the agents go on pause or log out of the queue, for instance, if everyone goes home for the day, then we're just going to automatically send our calls to the failover destination. Okay, then we have caller announcements. So this is something where you can basically have, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. So caller announcements are how often are we telling the caller things like what's their position in line and what is their approximate hold time. Now all of this stuff is sort of back-end generated by Asterisk. You can turn this on or off. So for instance, you might want to put every 2 minutes, we are going to announce to the caller their position in line. You are now the 4th caller in queue, right? And we'll do that every 2 minutes. You don't want to do it too often or else you're going to annoy the people that are calling in. And then also there's announce hold time, and that allows you to do yes, no, or once. And once means that it's going to announce their hold time the first time that it runs this announcement. You have approximately 3 minutes and 22 seconds to wait, right? But it's only going to do it once, and then subsequent times it'll just announce their position in line. Now I'm not going to get into the IVR breakout menu, but this is a really handy option, especially in high volume call centers. What this means is if you've ever been on a queue and you hear an announcement that says something like, "Thank you for calling. You are the 10th caller in line and your approximate wait time is 22 minutes. If you would like to leave us a message and have us call you back, press 1 now." That's what IVR breakout menu is. If you have a separate IVR that basically, if they have IVR options like press 1 for this, press 2 for that, press 3 for that, you can have them break out of the queue and go to some other destination. Give them the option to, for instance, leave a voicemail and have you call them back. And then you can also set the frequency. How often are we telling them about these various options that they have? We're not going to set up an IVR breakout menu in this tutorial, but just to be aware that that is a thing in FreePBX and you can utilize that if you want. Under advanced options, we have our service level. This is basically for like running reports. If you set your service level to 1 minute, you can run a report that will tell you what percentage of calls were answered within that 1 minute interval. This is sometimes if you have a third-party call center that's doing work on behalf of a different company, they will sometimes require an SLA or service level agreement that you have to adhere to. Like we, mandate that, all calls must be answered within 2 minutes. Right? So then you can have a service level set to 2 minutes and run reports that say 100% of calls were answered within 2 minutes or 82% of calls were answered with 2 minutes, which means that, obviously there's some work to do on getting those calls handed out more efficiently, or it goes towards agent staffing. If you're not hitting the SLAs and everyone's always busy, you just don't have enough call center agents to manage the volume of calls that's coming in. Okay, reset queue stats allows you to reset all the queue statistics. Typically, you don't want to do that. And then under other options, we just have add to iSymphony. iSymphony is a sort of UC dashboard for FreePBX that we don't use here at Crosstalk. I don't like iSymphony. I don't like the licensing model. There are better console GUI programs than iSymphony, so we just don't use this at all. Okay, so we have all of our settings. Let's go ahead and say submit, and we're going to apply config. Our sales queue has been created. I'm going to quickly now create our second queue, which is for customer service, extension 5051. So we're going to say add queue. 5051, we're going to call this customer service queue. And we're going to prefix it with CS : so that our agents know that it's a customer service call. We're going to set the ring strategy to round robin with memory. We're going to enable autofill. We're going to skip busy agents that are on queue calls already. We're going to record these calls, and our failover destination is going to be voicemail and our customer service voicemail with the unavailable outgoing message. For queue agents, let's go ahead and pick some agents. We'll just do static agents for this one because I'm not really going to be working with it, but we'll say Stanley Hudson, Phyllis, and that'll be it. Timing, we're going to say max wait time 5 minutes. Agent timeout of 15 seconds with a retry of 5 seconds is perfectly fine. We're going to say auto queue, yes, auto pause, excuse me, yes in all queues. For capacity option, we're just going to leave it unlimited callers. No caller announcements necessary, no advanced options necessary. We should be good to go, and submit. Okay, so let's go ahead and apply config. Now, when you have dynamic agents that need to be able to log in and log out of the queues, so for instance, they show up for work in the morning, they want to log into all of their queues, and then they want to log out of their queues when they leave for the day. In order to do that, there are feature codes. So, if you don't know what any feature codes are in FreePBX, there is a module for that. If you go to admin and then feature codes. So here this shows us all of the different feature codes that can be used in FreePBX, as well as which ones are enabled or disabled. So if we scroll down until we find queues, we see a few different feature codes here. So star 45 is the feature code for logging whatever extension you dial it from in and out of a queue. Then you have star 46, which is the feature code for pausing an agent. Each of these feature codes also has variables. So you can say star 45, this is just going to log you into all queues. It's going to log this extension into all of its dynamic queues. So star 45.
Agent logged in.
Okay,
200.
So extension 200 is now logged into all dynamic queues. If we want to log out, we just dial star 45 again.
Agent logged off.
Okay, so just that easy. However, what if you're a supervisor and you want to manually log in a different agent? In that case, you could do star 45 star agent number or extension number. So in this case, it would be star 45 star 200.
Agent logged in. 200.
Okay, so we're logged in. And again, to log out, you can do star 45 star 200 to log out, or just star 45 from this extension. Star 45.
Agent logged off.
All right. Now, let's say I'm a member of multiple queues, but I only want to log into one of those queues. You can do star 45 star agent number star queue number. So for the sales queue, which is 50/50, we can say star 45 star 200 star 50/50. This is going to log me into the sales queue only.
Agent logged in. 200.
And then if I want to log out of all queues, I can just do star 45 again, or if I want to just log out of one of those queues, I can do star 45 star agent number star queue number.
Agent logged off.
Okay, so multiple ways that you can log agents in and out. Again, you can specify which agent you're logging in. You can specify which queue you're logging that agent in or out of. Let's log back in again to all queues by just doing star 45.
Agent logged in. 200.
And now let's say I want to go to lunch or I want to take a break and I want to pause myself out of all of my queues. I could say star 46 and this is going to pause me.
Pause activated.
So now I am paused out of the queue. I will not receive queue calls until I do star 46 again to unpause myself and take calls once again.
Pause deactivated.
Just like with the logging in and logging out star 45 feature code, The pause feature code can also take variables. So star 45, star extension number or agent number, and then star queue number. So if I wanted to pause myself out of just one of my queues, I could do star 46, star 200, star 5050, right? That would just pause me in the sales queue, but if I was logged into the customer service queue as well, I could still take customer service calls. Now, the problem with feature codes when it comes to agents is that it's really difficult to train users on these specific types of feature codes. You know, star 45, your extension number, your queue number, like all that sort of stuff. Star 46 now to pause and unpause. It's easier just to use the real estate of buttons that you have on the phone with BLF keys that work as indicators for whether an agent is logged in or logged out. So let's go ahead and set that up next. We're going to add a button to this phone that allows us to log in and out of our queues. So to do that, we're going to go to Settings and Clearly Devices. We're going to pull out the side tray, and we want to edit the default Crosstalk 270 template. That is the template that this phone is using. We're going to click on Line Keys, and then for line key 4, we're going to choose BLF. Now, the reason we want a BLF, or busy lamp field, is because we want the button to change colors based on login status. So if an agent is logged in, it's going to be red, and if they're logged out, it's going to be green. It allows your agents to, at a glance, see whether they're logged in or logged out of the queue. So for BLF, the label, we're just going to say queue login. And for the value, we're going to say star 45. But if you just put star 45, that's not going to work because we don't know which extension the BLF key is monitoring. It's going to be able to work as a speed dial to log you in and out of the queues, but it's not actually going to have the associated asterisk hint for whether a particular extension is logged in and out of the queue. So it can't change the color of the button. So what we would want to do is star 45, star extension number. So in this case, star 200. But now think about this. There's another problem that we're running into. This is a template that is probably going to be used across multiple devices. Multiple different phones are going to be subscribed to this one template. If I just do star 45, star 200, every phone that gets this template is going to have the ability to log in and out extension 200. We don't want that. We want that to be a variable. So to create the variable, instead of 200, we're going to say underscore underscore, 2 underscores, sip underscore user underscore 1 underscore underscore. So that's the variable, right? So basically we're saying this BLF key should subscribe to star 45 star and then the variable for this extension, whatever extension happened to receive this template. In the case of this phone, it's going to do star 45 star 200. But if I put it on a different phone, now it can't go on Yealink phones because you can't have these types of variables across any phones except for the Crosstalk phones, which are also clearly IP phones. So keep that in mind when you're buying your phone system. If you want this kind of functionality, this is why I promote these phones, right? It's features like this that you can't do with any other phone on FreePBX. Okay, so there's our variable. Let's go ahead and hit submit. And very quickly here, we're going to see this phone almost immediately provision, and we're going to add that extra button to this phone. Provision success, and I now have a queue login button, and the color of the button is red because we are logged in. Now if I press the key,
Agent logged off.
now I'm logged off, right? And the button is back to green. So let's go ahead and log back in again.
Agent logged in.
There we go.
200.
I always forget that it's going to read off the extension number. Okay, so now our agent is logged in. Let's go ahead and call the queue here. So from my other softphone extension, we're going to call 5050. And I'm getting hold music on my softphone, and the queue is ringing. Now if I hit reject, nothing happens. Okay? So
Your call is now first in line and will be answered by the next available representative. Thank you for your patience.
So it said this call is now first in line and will be answered by the next available representative, right? So I'm in queue and I'm just waiting for the call to come through to someone else. But since I don't have any other extensions in this queue, it's never going to go through to someone else. So let's go ahead and log out.
Agent logged off.
And then let's log back in and see if this queue call comes through.
Agent logged in. 200.
Immediately it starts ringing this phone again. Now, if I let it go, it will automatically pause this agent. Like if I stepped out to lunch and I forgot to pause myself, now I have just auto-paused, but the caller on queue is still listening to hold music. They don't know that any of this is going on. So let me star 46 and unpause myself again. Star 46.
Pause. Deactivated.
And immediately the call's ringing through to this phone again, because now I'm once again available. Let's go ahead and answer it. Hello, hello. Thank you for calling. Goodbye. Okay, so queue call completed. Now, one other button that we might want to add to this phone is the pause button. So let's go ahead and do that next. We're going to click on line keys, and then we're going to add BLF, label, pause, and we're going to say star 46 star underscore underscore sip underscore user underscore one underscore underscore. Submit. And the phone should provision as it's doing right now. And now you can see we have a pause button, and it's currently green, which means that my agent is not paused in their queue. So let's go ahead and hit it.
Pause activated.
All right, pause activated, and now it's red. So I've gone to lunch and I've paused my phone. Let's go ahead and deactivate it again.
Pause deactivated.
And now let's call this extension one more time, but we're going to watch auto pause in effect here. So let's call 5050. Now I went to lunch and I forgot to pause myself, so it's ringing my extension. I didn't pick it up, and boom, pause just turned red. Okay, so I auto paused myself, so now...
Your call is now first in line.
I
and
hang
will
this
be
up.
answered.
So now it auto paused me. So when I come back from lunch, it'll be paused and I have to unpause in order to take calls again. But in the meantime, for the rest of the hour that I'm at lunch, since auto pause was enabled, calls will no longer hit my extension, which saves time for the people who are calling in. They don't have to try my extension and, they're just hearing hold music, but in reality, it's ringing the extension of an agent that's not there. So that's not good, so sort of call center efficiency. Okay, so that's a lot, right? Call centers are almost their own separate learning curve when it comes to any phone system, not just FreePBX. But there's just a lot of settings. Go through all the settings, set up your call center so that A, no calls ever get stranded anywhere, and B, calls are handed out to agents as efficiently as possible. All right, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, please click subscribe. In our next video, we are finally going to get into IVRs, where we're going to tie all of this stuff together, where we can now press 1 for sales, press 2 for customer service, etc. All right, we will see you guys in the next video.